REC Experience presents Real Estate, Entrepreneurship, Leadership with your host, Takhar. The REC Experience podcast is now on air.
Hey. Thanks for being in the REC Experience. I'm your host, Takhar, with your co-host, your girl, Laura Alto Stewart.
Hey guys, how's it going?
What's going on?
Well, we have a day today. I'm not even going to let you start.
Well,
I'm not even going to let you begin.
I was going to say to our viewers and our listeners, if you haven't subscribed yet, though, make sure, a little shameless plug, make sure you do, drop the bell, make sure you get notified about upcoming episodes. This is our year-end review, essentially.
A year-end review.
A year-end review. For the whole, like for 2 seasons.
For 2 seasons, 1 full year, all of 2019. And last year we did this very thing. Okay. And at the end of it, it was like an hour-long episode. And then at the end, was like, we should have had some champagne. And so this year, I will not make that same mistake twice. So I got some little goodies down here, Jazzy.
This is a
Only
morning.
The good stuff for
this
you.
is a morning shoot, but
yes, it is.
It's very fitting that we
can do this in the morning.
Champagne.
First of all, you and I both have just had birthdays.
Yes. Well, happy belated.
So, thank you. You too. So I think we have lots of reasons.
And if you're at home
celebrate.
watching this or listening, grab yourself a coffee, a tea, a vodka, some champagne, maybe a glass of vino, and join us in obviously hoping that Whoa, that was okay.
I was
a little
didn't
fast. Expect that. That's awesome.
Little trigger happy here.
Just happened. Congratulations on an amazing year for yourselves as well. Thank you so much for the continued support over this year and again over the 2 seasons that we did. I'll have a little bit more. That's not like, what's that?
Well, you said it was morning.
Yeah, now I'm going to get in the mood a little.
All right. I'll give you a full glass.
So,
I don't know what protocol is here, what proper champagne etiquette is, but there we go.
Salute to you.
Cheers. Congrats on a great year.
You too. And to you guys, cheers to you. And thank you again for all the ongoing support. Today's episode, let's take a sip first.
Yeah.
That is a good bottle
of champagne. It's never bad.
So no water or coffee today. We're just going to do the champagne
straight into it, guys.
Be interesting to see how this ends today.
So where do we begin?
Well, look, I anyone who's watching or listening right now, the year in review is not just for us. I hope I hope someone who's watching or listening can really take this and notice and see all the hard work that is put into putting a podcast together, consistently coming out with an episode every single Wednesday.
While also doing what we actually do here.
And we're going to talk about all that. Like, we're not only going to talk about all of our guests.
It's not just the podcast.
It's just not the podcast. We really want to go over the whole year. And we're going to kind of lay back. And that's why we why you decided to bring out the champagne. And really relax. And
I'm going to enjoy myself here because even just before we started, I had just mentioned to you, I can't even believe it's already been a year since we did the last one. It seems like yesterday.
I know.
And it's scary because a year goes by really fast. But at the same time, I brought up a list of everything that we've done this year that I'm going to go over a few things. And you can get a lot accomplished in a year. So if anyone learns anything from this, it's that, a year seems short. But in theory, if you just keep doing something day in, day out, week in, week out, you can actually get a lot done and a lot of change can happen.
I'm glad you brought that up because a lot of people think, well, you know what, in the next 2 months, I'm going to lose 40 pounds or I'm going to double my business.
Yes, but that's actually great to say because it's with New Year's resolutions and all that.
Like it's right a couple of weeks right around the corner where if you can think about, what can you really get accomplished in a year, over 12 months? What can you get accomplished over a 5-year period?
Yeah.
And if you can consistently put in the work, day in, day out, or like from a podcast perspective, every single week, what everyone sees is the post-production of it. Yeah. But what we actually do on a daily basis, especially with our media squad, is come out with content on all the platforms, Instagram, obviously audio, YouTube,
Medium,
Facebook,
blogs.
Medium, blogs. We'll talk about that because you started one this year as well. And again, thank you again for supporting all the platforms, but to hear the feedback, it's been amazing.
It's been, because we thought, how lucky were we this time last year, and just having we got to our 100th YouTube subscriber last year.
And
then
we're
this
up to
year
a couple of thousand now.
like so it's amazing how things snowball. And so I guess the really lesson learned as before we get started is to just get started. Get started. Start something. It doesn't have to be small. Be consistent, and don't be too hard on yourself along the way. We've had hiccups. We've had things that we could have done better, but we just kept at it. And you know what? People are very forgiving. Also realize that. Like, people are very, very forgiving.
Like if people just see that you're putting in the effort and you're trying. I always tell the story that when I speak Punjabi, if like somebody really wants to critique it, it's half English, half Punjabi, and half the words that I'm saying in Punjabi are wrong, and I'm just but anyone who's like, especially like some of the elders who they're just so like they're so happy that I'm respecting and I'm trying that they try with me to try to understand what I'm saying, and it's the same thing in anything else. Like, people are so forgiving. Very, very good point, Alto.
So I say we jump right into it.
Well, we jumped into the season.
We started with such a good one,
right? Scott McGilvery, good friend of REC's. He's been with us for a very long time now, coming up to like 4 or 5 years. Him and his business partner Michael Saracini. We work really closely with them in their organization,
called
which
Keyspire,
is called Keyspire, which is, in my opinion, and I'm not just saying this, I don't get paid to say this by any means, and they are one of the biggest and fastest growing companies in the country. I think like number 10 or number 11 in the whole country. But their business model is something that I just have loved to see grow. Like, we initially met these guys, Scott and Mike, about coming up to 5 years ago. And at that time, I think their membership was at like 100 to 125 people. It's over like 2,500 people
Well,
now.
that's just it. So it's, sometimes people say, well, it's not big enough, or nothing has to be big. You just have to start. So that goes to what we were just saying before. And they did the very same thing. So I think we can definitely appreciate that.
For sure. And both Scott and Mike have I've lost count, like over 100 properties, 100 doors. And these guys are like, just have a wealth of knowledge when it comes to investing in real estate. But what I've learned over time, and because they've been, and Scott shared a lot of it, and Michael, who's in season 2, so if you haven't seen that episode, go back. They were so willing to share all the business acumen they have,
like their entrepreneurial
right?
spirit.
Oh my God.
I mean, that's more fascinating than the investments. Just to hear their mindset about how they go about managing teams. And I mean, we've sat in on a few meetings with Michael, and he's just so fascinating because he's just so willing to try anything. And I didn't know as much about Scott, so having him here that day, just talking about all the naysayers when he first got started, and people saying you shouldn't be doing this. And it's, if people are saying that you're stupid and silly, that's usually an indication that you might be on to something.
Well, how many people come into the studio at the originally like a year and a half ago now? And like, you guys are crazy. Like, this is a real estate office. What are you guys doing? And what's this podcast thing? And like, you probably should go out and go get business and cold call.
Which I don't disagree with.
I don't as well.
All of them.
Right? But we felt that this was something that we would have a lot of fun doing. And in turn, we can educate a lot more people. Because of this platform allows you to go right across the world. You can only door knock on so many doors. You can only call so many people. And here, like, we're right across the world. Our listenership, I know we have listeners in Australia, which is cool because we're able to tell who's listening and the feedback that comes in. So it's nice to see we are starting to.
And we are trying to make our content a little more so it's across the board, so everyone can relate. Right. Which is, I think it's so great that we added entrepreneurs. Like, we had a fella in Devon too. At the beginning of the year.
Startup.
Just a startup. So like, compare someone like, a Scott who has years and years and years of experience. Someone like Devon who's just getting started, but had a great idea and is willing to sacrifice a lot for it. I mean, he talks about just trying to find time with his family is next to impossible. But it's that entrepreneurial spirit again, right? It's that people, like, they're passionate about it and they have a great idea. But the difference is lots of us have great ideas, so just get started on something.
Well, we had Nikki Ballou on as well. And he spoke about just like where his family background and where they came from, and a lot of the hardship that they faced. And it was kind of cool to hear Devin's story as well as Nikki's. I think we came up with those episodes
on the same episode,
or back to back, or maybe the same episode. And just to hear the come up story, right? And again, the naysayers, the doubters, and just got over it. Like they got really, really quiet and started shutting out the noise. Let's talk a little bit more about who else we had on, Laura.
All right. Well, we had Mark Weisletter, Sean Humphreys.
Love those
one
two.
episode.
Yeah, that was one of my favorite episodes because we really took it back to basics there with Mark, obviously one of the biggest real estate lawyers in the country, featured on BNN and CTV News and Global. And
wealth of knowledge. He's seen it all.
Yeah, he really has.
He's seen it all.
I don't even remember. I don't even know how many years he's been doing, like decades. He's been doing this for decades. Sean Humphreys was cool because he's a mortgage broker.
Yeah.
And we always say the importance, if you're thinking about buying your first home, even if you've bought and sold a couple of times, to me, those type of episodes are so valuable because you'll probably hear something that you did the wrong way.
Yeah, they're very tactical, right?
Yeah.
So definitely go back and listen to that one on things you need to know.
Well, even Sean Humphreys just talking about, look, get in touch with me as early as you possibly can so you can kind of get an idea. He's a mortgage broker, so you can kind of get an idea on what you can afford. And Mark Weisletter saying, I don't charge like a corporate lawyer. It's a one-time fee. So use me as many times. I'm not going to charge you for every phone call like other lawyers do, right?
Yeah.
And so that building out the all-star team, it's actually very important. The first person that you should think about always getting in touch with is a mortgage advisor.
Yeah.
Because he or she is the one that's going to tell you how much you can afford. And then we'll start looking at the area. Then you pick a realtor because you want to make sure you get an expert realtor in that area.
So that's the most perfect segue.
Right.
We also had on your real estate team, but
Yes.
from our real estate team, Anthony and Marlene joined us from REC.
Tabar.
Realtors.
Anthony Tabar.
Anthony Tabar.
Just love him. Been with us for coming up to 13 years
What a
now.
character.
Marlene's been with us since day one. Both actually characters in their own way.
Yes, definitely.
Anthony a little bit more out there for sure. If you haven't seen or heard or met Anthony, just shoot us an email. We'll get you in touch with this guy as well as Marlene. Marlene works more of the Durham area. Anthony working kind of the pre-construction condo segment. We have 32 realtors.
We sure do.
We chose them because they were free at that time. We kind of put it out to all of our team. And
They just do such different things. So it's just nice to hear different perspective. Not all realtors are the same. They don't all have the same expertise. So just because your cousin or your brother's a realtor doesn't necessarily mean that they're the right person to help you with your biggest investment. I'm not saying that that's wrong.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that they might not necessarily. So make sure you know what they're specialized in.
And it's why we built out our team the way that we did with 32 realtors, because they span right across the Greater Toronto area. In fact, most of the time, a realtor like Marlene that you'll be dealing with in Durham, you might not be working with her to purchase a home. Like if you're selling a home in Durham, to purchase a home in Newmarket, that'll be somebody else on our team. Why? Because again, it's being an expert in a very niche market.
Yeah, you need to know the stats. You need to know the comps, the solds.
And
What's
how do you
going
know
on?
a good
Every
street
market's
and
different.
a bad street?
Exactly.
And
yeah.
every market's different,
Yeah.
right? We always get the question. I think it's the most asked question we get
How's
on
the
it.
market?
How's the market?
Yeah.
Well, in Greater Toronto area, there's probably 300 to 400 micro
Little
markets.
micro markets, all doing their own different things. Just because sales are up as a whole doesn't mean sales on your street are
Exactly.
up as a whole.
And when you hear average pricing, well, I mean, average pricing, are you looking at what's happening in Bridle Path or are you looking at condos in the downtown core? Like they're totally two different segments in the marketplace, right? And so that's something that we need to kind of figure out as you go along, right?
So speaking of real estate, I'm going to call them professionals.
Yes.
We had Rav Tour on. He's a professional in his own right.
For sure. Rav Tour, good friend of mine from Brampton.
Yes.
We run in a lot of we run in the same circles. I think you've probably heard it more than anything now. Like real estate's in Toronto specifically, it's a small world, like a very small world. But Rav's figured out a way to retire at a very, very young age with investing in real estate.
Unlike a lot of our other guests who might be a little more, let's call them quintessential hustlers, so to speak. I don't want to, he's got work ethic, obviously.
Yes, he
he's
definitely
very
does.
successful.
Yeah.
But his frame of reference is that, do what you need to do to buy time to spend with the people you want to spend with. And so he has manufactured this life for himself where he really doesn't work all that often. He's got a lot of passive income and he spends a lot of time doing exactly what he wants to be doing. What he wants to be doing with the people he wants.
And look, he told me a couple of years ago when we were just speaking at a conference, and he mentioned that he wanted to. Well, this is probably going back, actually close to a decade now. Where he wanted to homeschool his kids, and that was something that was very, very important to him. And he does that, but he does it really cool, right? Like he'll bring in a mechanic. Like a real mechanic to help
teach them real life skills.
Teach them real life skills,
which is, we've been hearing it more and more, certainly from guests, is that, the school system perhaps failed them in a way. They weren't necessarily the best student, but there's all these things that you can learn just from going out and being with people who are actually working day in and day out.
Right.
The lessons learned there are
for sure. And
amazing lessons.
You were speaking about his work ethic. Like he also was a realtor, probably going back to 15, 18 years now, and he worked really hard.
That's what I'm saying. It's just how he's living today.
Yeah, it's really relaxed, really chilled. He actually has his own show, Everyday Investor, on I'm not sure if it's on Rogers TV, but you can get it on cable.
Which you guys were on.
Myself and our business partner,
No, that was year before. Oh my gosh, what's happening?
It's all kind of, it becomes a blur, right? When you're in it so much, and when you're operating and on a daily basis, we do more than just podcasting. And so I want to make sure
and
people
drinking
understand.
champagne.
Well,
we do
obviously.
more.
Well, we like to drink champagne. There's nothing wrong with that.
So speaking of champagne, let's get into the luxuries of life a little bit.
Right.
One of my favorite podcasts that we did was at the Porsche dealership. And not just because there was Porsches, although that was a huge bonus.
Right.
We got to drive in one, sit in one, look at one.
We shot some videos in the flagship
Which was, of course,
Porsche.
was fun. But I think what it meant to you was what was so great about it.
Yeah, look, I mean, yourself, Simos, and the media squad went to lengths to make sure that we really got that episode done. We sat down with the CEO of the Policaro Auto Group, Francesco Policaro, who is the nephew of my ex-boss when I used to work in car sales at Acura. At that time, it was called Acura 2000. It's now called Policaro Acura. They have 8 dealerships and another couple coming. Yeah. Just in all honesty, one of the biggest car dealers in the country, hands down, and that's like statistically speaking. But they really mean a lot to me, that family, because and you'll notice, because I make mention of it so many times in the episode, they really just kind of set me down the right path. The uncle of Francesco, Paul Policaro.
Well, that's really how you really started in sales. I know we speak to your paper route and
shoe sales
and shoe sales, but this was like a career.
Yeah, this was a career. This was really the step up, and it was really the first time I had a real mentor, someone who took me under his wing for no real reason. It was also the first time that I realized people do things just because they want to either leave a legacy or they're just nice people. And Paul was that for me.
You speak to him all the time. Yeah. About him all the time, I should say. And the impact of that. And you can tell the way you're trying to build relationships with your employees here. Yeah. That obviously he left a huge impact on you.
Oh, I mean, at least a couple of times a week, I make mention of what I did in a car sales, what I did at Acura, what Paul had taught me. Because
an exhausting amount, he mentioned.
Well, the truth is because he, majority of their dealerships under their umbrella are number 1 in the country. So if it's a BMW that they have, it's top. It's a Toyota. My brother actually, Tak, runs the Toyota dealership in Brampton. Their Porsche, their Lexus, Acura, Honda. These guys are at the top. They actually own a couple of Harley Davidsons now. And to get to the top in so many, not only in sales, but in the service aspect. And consistently over X amount of years.
In service as well.
In service as well, right? Because sometimes in the car business, that's kind of what they take a hit for. But these guys have been number 1 in so many of the segments. You're obviously doing something really, really well. And so that was a very important episode for us to do. And for me, it was very nostalgic.
We had an officer on our show.
Yes.
Jazz tries to avoid officers most of the time. But
Well, I
this
think we
time
all do on the road.
we sent the guy out.
I think we all tried to do it on the road.
Yeah, let's talk about Officer Randall Arsenal.
Just an amazing guy.
I
Were
hope
we ever
we're going to
shocked?
have him on again.
Oh, him
first
and I
of all.
speak on Instagram all the time. If you don't follow this guy, go follow him, Officer Randy Arsenal.
Yeah.
We actually just gave him a call because the laws changed, obviously.
About texting and driving, which
Texting
I
and
think there's new laws that are coming in,
can't
so
eat
we're going
now.
to get him. If I can't eat while I'm driving, it's
Yeah.
going to be.
Well, you probably don't do a lot of that. You have like a 30-second drive into the office.
Okay.
So how long is it? Like,
Granted, I don't need to eat on my drive
What
into
are
the
you eating
office.
while
But
you're
on my way
driving
up
the 30
north,
seconds? Yeah.
I go up north many weekends.
Okay,
Sometimes
I'll
like you
give
need
you
to
that.
eat on the
I'll
road. I
give
have a
you
dog.
that.
I'm not even allowed to go in.
Right.
So if I'm not allowed to go into the restaurant because I have a dog,
Yes.
and I'm not allowed to sit in my car and have it idling.
So I guess you can only like skip the
then-
dishes to your car.
Like, what am I-
and sit in the parking lot.
But I'm saying,
and
but now the gas is running, and now I'm detrimental to the environment,
Yeah.
and now I can't eat while I'm driving. This is a disaster because I need to eat like every 3 hours. But anyway,
first world problems for our girl also here.
Jazz knows what it's like when I get hungry. It's a bad scene.
It's
So
hangry. Yourself and Simos
Yeah,
between
it's-
you
it's
two.
pretty bad.
It's pretty
It's a bad
bad.
scene.
Randy Arsenal, we went to go meet this guy at a parking lot in McDonald's.
Yeah.
Myself, you,
Yeah,
and
yeah. And
Clemmer, and Machado, actually, not Clemmer.
yeah,
anymore.
all right. We're
we're changing the name to
Let
Machado.
me top you up here.
Thank you
while
so
we're
much.
talking
Thank you so
about
much.
The law.
He was just amazing. Like so much energy, all about producing content to really showcase laws and rules and really touch the community. It was one of our first episodes, correct me if I'm wrong, Alto, where we had someone that was kind of like a mini celebrity in terms of in
Yes.
the community,
Yes.
you know, like grassroots level.
Yeah. Well, what's so fascinating about him really is that he's trying to change the stigma around police and
Yeah.
that it's society versus them.
Yeah.
And he's doing it by touching individuals' lives and meeting with kids and having them come along with him and teaching in a way that isn't reprimanding, that's making people understand the importance of certain safety things and laws and why they exist.
The first thing he asks us, he's like, "Are you following me on Instagram? Are you following me on Facebook?" And because he really knows that's the platform, like social media,
Yeah.
online
Yeah.
is the way to go. And we really shot a really cool video on location. But then he came into the studio and did
did
a
one with
full
us,
blown
yeah.
episode just to talk about his story. And that's really what the podcast for us, anyways, is about. Is
Well,
telling
everyone has a good story.
it's
really.
so true, right? Like, doesn't matter where you came from, where you are now. There's always a story in there, and that's why we kind of wanted to start this podcast. Was because of that. We'll talk about real estate. We'll tell you about the tips and the strategies. We'll talk about entrepreneurship and leadership, but we really just want to get people's stories out there because we're speaking to so many people.
Yeah.
It's just neat to, I think, to be a listener or viewer. And obviously, I'm biased. I want you to listen to this podcast, but most podcasts are built like that, where you can just kind of be a fly on the wall.
Yeah.
Right. And so it was really nice to talk to him about
for sure.
him becoming an officer, how his father was, and a lot of changes that he went
He had to
through.
make personal development. Speaking of which, one of the greatest stories that we've ever, in all the seasons,
Yeah.
in all the 4 seasons that we've had of our podcast.
I actually don't know where
Alfonso.
you're going right now. Oh, Alfonso Quadra, my
Yeah.
boy, from
was on,
Ottawa,
yeah.
up to 500 doors now, and that's not even what's impressive about
That is
him.
not what's impressive,
Right?
which is insane. because
Yeah,
It's very impressive.
500 doors is
What's impressive
crazy.
is that this guy used to sleep in, what was it, bank?
Yeah, like in the where you go the
vestibules or
ATM,
whatever,
the
yeah, the
ATM, right?
ATM
Where you go,
area.
where it's all blocked
Yeah,
off.
homeless.
And what's even more impressive than that, because he started a clothing company and he took it to millions, and then learned lost it,
Yeah.
learned the hard way, then became homeless,
Yes.
and then came back up again.
So
with-
that's what's so amazing because
Yeah.
it's I'm not going to say easy to do it once. It's not easy to do it once,
Yes.
but to then be beat down and have everything taken from you and then do it again.
and have the fortitude to want to do it again. And
Fortitude.
Yeah, I'm bringing out the big words. It's
Very
your
nice.
review. It's at the end of 2019.
Damn, I'm going to
like-
choose you on that one right there.
Yeah, come on. Through this podcast, I'm also
Jazz is
expanding
learning
my
new
vocabulary.
words.
I hope
Yes.
I hope the viewers and the listeners
Let's replay
like
back
they
to
like
one.
that, right? Yeah, go back to don't go back to episode 1 now. Actually, I'd love to hear someone's feedback on if they've enjoyed the
noticed,
changes and of not only the actual content but how we're producing it as well, right? Alfonso, do yourself a favor, guys. Go back to that episode because it's one of the ones that we get the most feedback about because people just connected with the guy, right?
Yeah.
In fact, we're in the process of scheduling him for season 5 next year to kind of do a second kind of part 2 and really dive more into his story. As well as
Get
more
some
tips
real
and strategies and tips.
So speaking of tips and strategies, we came out with a book this year. I'm going to take it away from the podcast for a second.
Right.
So
Nice,
reach
like
above
that.
your head there.
Yep.
So we've had this book. It's on version 3 or 4?
I was going to say version 3.
3.
Yep.
So we came out with this new version this year,
Yep.
probably earlier on in the year. So now it's available.
Yes, it
so
is.
if you haven't got a copy of
Yep.
our book yet, you can get it for free.
Yeah, there's
How
no
do they
cost
get
for it. Yeah, you just email us, like really, info@reccanada.com.
We will mail you out the hard copy, or
Yes.
if you'd prefer a soft copy, we can
download
get
it.
you that.
Yeah,
as well.
and even if you're watching on YouTube, just leave it in the comments. We get them, and we'll make sure we get you a copy. Or if you're listening, you can text us 416-999-8850 and let us know that you want a copy. Email us again at info@reccanada.com. It really is one of Canada's best guides on how to buy, how to sell, and how to invest on your own. And so this is not all about like REC. In fact, we hardly even mention our name in this.
Yeah.
Because we really wanted to, just like the podcast, just like any of the pieces of content you see on any of social platforms, in our book, we wanted to give away everything.
This is really what we do.
Exactly.
And it's just handed to you on a silver platter.
Well, there's a chapter in there that just talks about how to sell your own home. Like literally, this is what we do as agents.
This is what we
and
do with
you
the
can do
stager.
it.
This is how we prepare it. This is what we look for.
This is how we
This is how we get
price it.
comps. Yeah.
This is how we price it. This is how to negotiate the best deal possible on your own. Why would we do that? Here it is, guys. We'll peel back the curtains on our business development. And again, just like the podcast and everything else that we do, our macro thesis on business development is give away the farm. And give it all away for free, and whoever ends up working with us, great. And if you decide to use your cousin Charlie or do it on your own, that's okay as well. We know that there's enough to go around, and the fact that on the internet there's so much free information, we know like whoever gives the most value, in our opinion, will win in the long term, and that's what we're trying to do.
So I'm going to name off a few people here.
Yes.
Just because we're still on season 1. So not to discredit.
Season 3, you mean?
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, the
season
first
1
part
of the year.
I get it.
Okay, so we had our Sahil Juggy. We had Andrew Fogliato.
Yeah.
We had Harry Fine.
Yeah.
Satish Bala.
Yeah, Satish. Look, all those names that you mentioned are just like they're either a mix of people who are doing it and they're telling their story. They're in the process right now, so we get to get right into the dirt of what's going on in their lives. Sahil has a portfolio of $5 million in real estate right now. Andrew Fogliato is a real estate coach for our realtor listeners out there. And then you mentioned just before, Harry Fine's an ex-adjudicator. Yeah. Like you need to listen to this guy. He's ex-adjudicator at the landlord tenant board.
Also a wealth of knowledge.
Wealth of knowledge, years, decades and decades.
Don't put
of
yourself in a
experience.
situation you don't need to. You just need the information.
As a landlord, you just need to make sure that you know what you're doing.
Yeah.
And then Satish Bala, right? Like just an entrepreneur at heart. This guy's started companies, sold companies.
Nonstop ideas. He calls us like, I have a new idea.
Yeah.
Like every now
like
and then.
we get a
It's
lot
great.
of calls with people with ideas, and the difference, in my opinion, with Satish is that he actually executes.
He executes
now,
for sure.
he might have 6-7 balls in the air, but I like his thinking is that, you know what, if 2 drop, I still got 4 going. And so that's kind of how we practice what we do here. So shout out to all those four or five names that you mentioned.
I'm going to bring in a power couple.
I know exactly where you're going with this. Yeah.
I never met either of these individuals before
I don't
they
think you
came
knew
in.
anything about them, right?
I knew nothing about them.
Yeah.
And I wasn't overly excited about the episode.
Right, because you didn't know them,
I didn't know them until I found out their story.
Yes.
Franco LaFranco and his fiance, I believe, Wendy Saunders.
Yeah, they actually told us on the episode that they're getting married sometime in 2020.
Yeah.
The power couple. Like
The
these guys.
power
Yeah.
couple.
Just amazing,
Yeah.
amazing, like genuine people. Franco I've known for a little over a decade now. I just called him up and said, Franco, man, like your wisdom, like you run an organization in the multi-millions,
Yes.
and organization of thousands of people that inside his organization right across the world. And so he has a lot of data. Literally called him up and said, Franco, could you be a guest on the episode, on the podcast? He's like, Jazz, I love you. Literally. I love you, whatever you need.
So he comes by. I didn't know much. Maybe I wasn't excited because you didn't tell me much about him.
Yeah, I think it was like a couple of days I just set it up because he was only here because he works right across the world, right?
But they're busy for sure.
Yeah.
Wendy wasn't even scheduled, I don't think, to be on the podcast, but wow. Yeah. What an interesting woman. She reads a lot and she's very introspective. New word for you.
Oh, there you go.
Very
I'll put that in the vocab.
And she's got a lot of tips herself, and just by writing things down and how she journals things and looks back to about failures in her life. She talked about her divorce and the impact of all that on her and her family and how she's now coming out of that and really running her own business within the business.
I love the fact that they're in the same business, but yet they kind of run things on their own, right? In fact,
successful on their own right. But what's so great is that they get to do it together.
They get to do it together. They have a lot of fun. They travel the world, and just hearing their stories. And these are not two people who came up and grew up with money or anything. Like they built this. They're self-starters.
Yeah.
And I didn't know much about Wendy either because Franco and I we've both been busy. And so we haven't been really in touch. So I got to meet Wendy and really hear her story through how many times do we have guests on and I don't want to know really anything about them because I want to be
authentic to hear it
exactly and go through the same process with the listener or the viewer, right? And so I really got to do that with Wendy. Yeah. I really got to do that.
I loved her. I follow her on Instagram. I'm always intrigued as to what she's up to.
Yeah, she's all over the world.
All over the world. She's just living her best life. That's what she's doing.
It's so true.
So another power couple.
Yeah.
Josh Altman and his wife.
Yes.
Heather. But we just had Josh, but he speaks a lot about his wife in it. So there's some comparison for sure.
Right.
But we don't have, I'm reading the book at home.
You
so
took
I have it at home with me.
Well, we gave away 25 copies of his book. So guys, like anytime we're giving away stuff, like our book, you can always get it. There's no cost for it. But sometimes we have guests on and I'll generally get like 25, 30, 40, 50 copies to give away. Sure just get to it right away. Like leave it in the comments. We don't have any more of his because we definitely like to keep on the wall, but Elto stole it and took it home. And
I needed to read it.
Now we'll see if we actually get it back.
I mean, this guy is one of the top realtors in the United States.
Yes.
Him and his team. He has a brother that they started there. And now that I'm reading their story, he spoke about it a bit like on the podcast. But now that I'm actually reading his book, like how they started, these guys used to sit at restaurants and get water because they couldn't afford the drink, but they just wanted to make it look like they were hanging out with
But they were smart. There wasn't just any restaurant. It was like the high-end restaurants in Beverly Hills.
So they weren't getting like a scotch. They were like literally getting water in a short glass with ice to make it look like it was a vodka soda or whatever. And then they would schmooze with whoever sat beside them. And that's how they got business. Like we're talking about like grassroots hustling. Like no shame. I'll do anything to get business. These guys, and they've been very, very successful.
They're one of the top realtors on the continent. Yeah. And like $1 Million Listing LA is the show that they're on Bravo TV.
Oh yeah, in case we didn't mention that.
Right. Well, we had Ryan on from New York, Ryan Serhant in season 3. Season 2, I apologize. And so Josh, we had on season 4.
Three. Josh was season 3.
Season 3, and then we backed it up with... didn't we not back it up with Tracy after?
And Tracy was season 4.
Tracy was season 4, who's also on the same show, who's just... Like, I didn't know much about Tracy, to be honest with you. I really didn't know much about Josh. Like, I'm not
you're not an avid watcher.
I'm not an avid watcher.
I am. I've watched every single episode.
Yeah.
pretty much.
Tracy's newer on the show, though. Like Josh, I knew because
I think she's 2 seasons in.
She's 2 seasons in. I just had a blast with Tracy on that episode because she literally invited us into her home. We did it through Zoom. She was in her home in LA. I'm not sure if it's Malibu, Beverly Hills, or exactly where it was. But
I got to admit, Tracy was, if you ask me who was one of my favorite people.
Yeah.
I mean, everyone's so fascinating and so unique, but Tracy Tutor just gave me so much happiness inside.
Why?
I love her energy. I love that she is kind of quintessential boss woman. Like, go get it.
And still being very authentic. Like, her authenticity was really cool.
She's not coming in and being like anything other than herself. She's not trying to be a man in a man's world. She's just doing her own thing, but like owns it. Recently divorced and is navigating her life that way now. Co-parenting and all that. And all the ups and downs. And she spoke to, my sister didn't even use me as a real estate agent. What does that say about me? And all the trials and tribulations that she'd gone through. And I just love her. I think she's great on the show. I think she's even better speaking to her in person. So definitely check that one out.
Look, I mean, we get to see them as like TV stars, but that's not what they really are. Like these guys and gals we get to also see the stats and the reports behind, like the real reports about how much business they're doing. They're top in the continent. Like these guys are top.
Yeah, they're not
realtors
lying
and
for TV.
business owners.
They obviously spin it to make it. People have certain like personality traits, and he's the bad one. And she's the good one, or he's the whatever it is. They're all obviously really good people. They wouldn't be successful if they weren't running like a stand-up operation.
For sure. I mean, I don't think they were going to give you an opportunity to get on the show, right?
Yeah, exactly. So we also had our very own Chris Lydon.
Yes, Chris Lydon, broker, owner of Royal LePage Signature, 1,100 realtors right across the Greater Toronto Area between 3 offices. Himself and his brother, Jeff Slydom, just in my opinion, hands down, I've been in this real estate business for 15 years. And before we came to Signature exactly a decade ago, we also had our own brokerage. But at that time, we were recruiting agents and realtors across Greater Toronto Area. So I got to see a lot of offices and see a lot of operations and hands down, one of the best run operations in the country. I think it's number 3 on the Toronto Real Estate Board in terms of actual sales. Yeah. It's very, very little turnover, where the real estate business is known for turnover because agents come.
Says a lot about these guys.
Just they're here every single day. They really employ the right people.
Their door is always open, always available
open
for questions.
If we wanted Chris to be part of this now, he
let us have our studio in the office, so they're very supportive.
So glad you said this, right? Like, who in their right mind would let a podcast studio, one office, another office across the hall here where the media squad sits? So our boy Machado and Spencer and Steven and Tyler, they all sit across the hall, and other than Tyler, who is our really air traffic control guy.
New title.
These guys are just media guys. And no disrespect to media guys, but they don't usually play a part in real estate.
Yes.
And for them to have the foresight, and we just finished a week and a half ago, we came back from the luncheon at Signature with all 1,100 realtors. REC, our team, was the number 1 team. So congratulations to all of our team members, the 32 realtors and the 8 support staff, including the media. Congratulations to you guys and to any of your clients. Thank you for being so loyal. There's 55,000 realtors in the Greater Toronto Area, and you stuck it through with us and helped us help you and another 699, to be exact, buyers, sellers, and investors this year in 2019. And so I'm so grateful. And I know I can speak for yourself, Laura. I can speak for CMOS, that we're so blessed to have so many loyal supporters.
Definitely.
Clients who obviously become friends and family, and also just our team.
Within.
And Chris
We've created a little family.
100%. Yeah. Chris Slydom and Jeff Slydom have allowed for it.
Definitely.
And so
they're part of it.
Kudos to them. They're part of it.
Sure.
They're partners of ours, right? So kudos to them, and a huge shout out to them as well.
So in terms of, obviously what we do here, we use the media to, help educate the marketplace.
Did you go for a second?
I haven't. Okay. I don't. Maybe I have. Viewers, have I? I don't remember now.
That's a big question today. Try and put it in there, Machado. Put it in there. Did she have? This is.
I don't know. We need a counter ticky thing. Okay, so
first person to answer on YouTube because we would have seen if she did. I'm gonna give
I'm
gonna give away a $50 gift card to the Shops at Don Mills, which is our head office. But you're gonna have to come into the studio and take a picture and give the answer if this was Laura's second or third. Because I don't remember right now.
Me either. That's irrelevant.
So let's make sure we put that in. Just comment below. The first comment gets a $50 with the right answer, obviously. A $50 gift card to Shops at Don Mills. Continue.
So I was going to say, we put our media squad up.
You know what? The viewers and listeners, they should be happy. And I didn't mean to cut you off. They should be happy that we drink a little bit more on the show because then we just start giving away things.
I'm working on my transitions here, and the alcohol's not necessarily helping.
Okay, go.
Okay, so I was going to suggest that we don't only just talk about real estate here, and we're not just focused on sales, obviously education, but education and real estate. We actually try and do some good here. We had 2 amazing podcasts this year. One being with the teachers and their students, the grade 8 students. They came in. It was a part 1, part 2. Yeah, that was. What was the
launch? Like when did we launch that? May?
Okay, so June.
Right, so summerish. Yeah. I remember it being really warm. Pavinche.
That is one of the greatest moments of the year.
Yeah. What? Like, talk to me. Why?
The day that all those kids came, they got a bus and they came in. They had been working on their project for a couple weeks prior, so they broke up into different groups and they had to come up with essentially a passion project, a topic that they wanted to talk about. They had to research it and talk about how they were going to present it to us on a podcast. There were some kids who were mortified. They didn't want to be on this thing at all. You put the mic in and they just sat there. Yeah. And it was great to try and push them out of their comfort zone. Everyone did it. Everyone tried it. Yeah. It's not to say this isn't for everybody.
Yeah.
They're so everyone
grade
tried,
8,
and then
right?
some
They're
of them,
13 years old.
Some of them came in, and they were all like, "I'll take the mic. I'm going to own this thing." Jazz, in fact, get out. I've never seen someone kick Jazz out of the podcast until this girl did.
I don't think I've ever allowed anyone to kick me out except when this 13-year-old. She said, "I'm going to host this by myself,"
and she did a great job.
Yeah, she did an amazing job. I think. Even more so, the fact that it was like over a month of planning, organizing, and then executing. We actually went and got a chance to go to their classroom before the day that you're speaking and see it all in action and see how much they put into it. The title of, I think it was back-to-back episodes, was the Passion Project. It really was that, to see their passion on whatever they wanted to speak about, and then the teachers.
I was going to say, so the teachers, I love these guys so much because so we wanted to do something great for the kids, but it's even better when there's like other great things that come out of your initial plan.
Yeah,
so
the peripheral stuff that comes up.
Peripheral stuff. And the teachers have now so inspired by what we did here that day. Yep. They started their own podcast.
Yeah, Pavinche, and it's called, what's their podcast name? The Staff Room Podcast.
The Staff Room, of course. I was like, what is it?
Well, because I always think of just Pavinche, the hosts, and they're amazing. They came to us and just spoke. Like, so we did the intro with them for the kids episode.
And they were 2 naturals.
100%. And then we sat down here in this room and just spoke about them starting their own podcast. So go check it out on any podcast platform. They haven't started the video stuff, but they will.
And now they're starting like doing these articles. Like, so the podcast has now transformed them into being in a weekly article where they're talking about their tips and tricks as teachers. Like, it just keeps snowballing. Right. And it's so great to see.
It's called the Staff Room Podcast. Go make sure you go check it out. And
they're getting their own swag too soon. Yeah, so I'm excited to see that.
They want like stuff like our swag.
Oh,
like
should we bring in, what else did we do this year?
Hats.
Don't forget about the vlogumentary.
Well,
hold on.
There was Machado brings in the vlogumentary, which is for sure. You need to definitely check that out as Laura showcases her fashion skills. There's the REC swag. Good job. I mean, Steven Rochester, who you guys don't, I know I say it all the time, you guys don't get to see him often or even hear from him, but he does all of our designing. And as I look at this is kind of our logo and our look for all of the swag, hats, sweaters, and T-shirts.
We even have onesies.
We have baby onesies. That
I'm trying to get something for dogs because that's,
we talked about figuring out what we can. Maybe
a couple more things for some gals.
I always want to give like a dog collar, but you told me that probably wouldn't fly with dog owners because there's more like they want more.
Yeah, maybe a dog leash.
Got it. And so if you come by the studio, we have swag, and we're not charging for this stuff. yet for any of the merch, but come by. We
have
always
a
have
whole
stuff.
rack.
We have a whole
It makes
rack.
me very happy to see it every single day because
for
it's like
sure.
a mini closet at work.
Yeah, I love it too. I really, really do. And it gives me an opportunity to just wear hoodies and sweaters and stuff and t-shirts, which I like to do. And so
the teachers were inspired by that swag. Back to the vlogumentary.
Yeah, the vlogumentary that our boy Machado put together about that whole, like what I spoke about, planning it, organizing it, and executing it. Just go to the YouTube page, just scroll down, you'll see the vlogumentary. It's kind of in the section of vlogs and documentaries, right, Machado? Yeah, vlogs and docs, and take a look at it. Leave a comment below, like it, whatever, man, and share it, guys. We would really, really appreciate it.
Season 4.
Season 4. Now we're into
starts off with the trip to New York City.
to NYC.
We got 3 podcasts out of one trip.
I mean, obviously the names that we had on were just huge. For me, sitting back, it was actually amazing to watch how we executed a 3-day trip and got 3 episodes.
3 episodes. It was exhausting.
It was exhausting,
but
right?
but super fun. We got to meet some
We actually
amazing
got 4.
people.
We were featured on someone else's podcast as well,
You're
right?
right.
And so we haven't
Yes.
brought out that episode
Yes.
at any time.
Yeah.
And so we got like a lot. We got to go to the Yankees game. It was actually just for me nice to watch, like Machado, yourself, and Simos, just having a lot of fun, right? And then obviously getting the episodes done.
Yes.
And-
So
and
let's
to
start
have
with
related. For me,
I was going to say, let's start with our boy Luke, who
Okay.
got us in with Related.
Well, Luke Matheny, I love you. You're amazing.
He was in Montreal not that long ago,
I
and
know,
he
he
didn't
didn't
make
come-
it to
he
Toronto.
didn't make it into
and
Toronto.
I shamed him for not coming
Did
to
you?
make it.
And what did
Yes,
he
I
say?
did. And he said, I will come see you guys. So it's now on here,
Yeah,
Luke.
yeah.
This spring, you are coming to Toronto, and
Yeah.
you're going to meet with us.
Look, I was having dinner, just a quick little story, a couple of days ago with some family, and they said, like, we got to ask you a question. How do you get the guests?
Yeah.
And you continuously get big guests and interesting people. And I said, I'm quite persistent, and I just keep calling. And then I get lucky. And with Luke, we got lucky.
Lucky.
And because I
He
called
worked
some people.
for us.
Yeah,
Some
I
people
just
will say,
called some
it's not going to
people
work. He was like, that won't work with that person, but let me find somebody else. And he got back to us.
and got us to the senior vice president of Related Companies, who's like the biggest real estate developer in all of USA. I mean, they're world renowned, and even coming to Toronto very, very soon with like the biggest redevelopment in the of history in Canada. I think it's about $2.1 billion that they're going to be doing, similar to what they did at Hudson Yards.
Yeah.
Luke got us in
With
to
Stephen Winter.
Stephen Winter, Senior Vice President of Related Companies, spoke about everything that they do, how they look at an investment opportunity, because they're not looking for like a one-door kind of investment opportunity. They're looking to redevelop areas and locations, and it's exactly what they did in Hudson Yards. But we got to shoot it, and Machado did a vlog on this as well, a tour on the 85th floor of 15 Hudson Yards, and it was just like the view of Hudson River, 3,500 square feet,
You see the
$15
Statue
million,
of Liberty.
Statue of, you see it all, right? And
Well,
so-
this opened our mind
Yes.
to the possibility of doing these types of tours, because this has to have been
Yep.
our best viewed
Well, it went viral.
video.
It went viral.
to date.
It's I don't know, like close to 110, 112,000.
And all we
or
did
so,
was show you around a
110,000
condo.
views. Yeah, but people have look like
People
real
want to
estate.
it's like all the shows I watch.
It's become
right?
the new porn. Like I hate to say, but it's just the truth. Like that's what people watch. The people like to go see luxury real estate.
See
and
how
this
other
happen-
people live, what
Other
they
people live,
have.
right? This was the 85th floor.
It makes them imagine what their life could be.
Yeah.
Like it's
And so we did start
Yeah.
a show selling Toronto.
Selling Toronto.
Where we're
We're
going
gonna
around.
keep that up.
We're going to keep it up, right? We also went, so take a look at it. You'll see it in the REC tour section.
Mm-hmm.
We did a $12 million penthouse here in Toronto,
Yeah.
or like a condo unit
Yeah.
in Yorkville. We did Montreal.
yeah. These all tend to be inside of like hotels.
Yeah, but they're usually attached to hotels. Hudson Yards wasn't. Hudson Yards wasn't.
Yeah.
So make sure you take a look at that. Just we're just having fun with it, right? I
Yeah.
think just like everything else, we like real estate. We like to see stuff, especially
It's
when
a great reason to get inside some of these places that you'd really never see otherwise.
you never see otherwise. So make sure you take a look at not only the Hudson Yards, but the Yorkville condo, as well as our penthouse in Montreal, which we actually did an episode, and we'll talk about that in a second.
Yeah.
But Stephen Winter, just amazing, and thank you to Luke. But then we also had our boys, Nate and John
from Empathy Wines.
These guys here started Empathy Wines with their business partner, Gary V, who we also actually did an episode with, which I'm sure Laura's going to bring up in a second. But John and Nate, just awesome guys. Like, they've done so many different things. And now I think, like, watching them from afar on Instagram and LinkedIn and all the socials, it's been really, really neat to see them. Like, they're just happy all the time.
Oh,
right.
Well, maybe because they're drunk
Follow
all
them
the
if you
time.
don't.
I don't know. No, probably not.
Yeah.
But what I really learned in that podcast was when you do create a team.
Yeah.
And you start thinking, I'm going to build something out. Obviously, when you first start out with your own company, it's probably just going to be you. But as you think about building out your team, you try and get people around you who aren't necessarily good, or who are good at what you're not necessarily good at, is what I'm trying to say. And I think they really did that. They took people from, different backgrounds, and one of them doesn't know as much about wine as the other one, but he was really good with numbers.
Well, look, how many times do I say that I suck at 97% of the
99%.
things? Well, I'm going to say 97. But I'm gonna make a life out of the 3% that I'm good at, right?
The one.
Oh, sorry. Okay. The one. And I'm just going to surround myself with the right people, right? Like, I didn't have to set up these cameras. I don't have to post-produce anything. You're not going to post-produce anything.
You got to be willing to pay a little usually.
Yeah, look,
so
I think you can grow faster. And a lot of those thoughts and that mindset came to me at a time in my life when there's obviously a tragedy that my business partner and I and everyone on our team went through with our business partner Simon passing away, where I needed a voice, a different voice. I was obviously open for it, and that's when Gary came into my life, and that's when I started to kind of consume his content with a different perspective. I was kind of listening to him before, but I didn't really think of executing on anything. And when I went back, it was like, okay, now it's time to execute. So I was looking at it from a different perspective, a lot of his content.
So you stole a little bit of the thunder for Gary.
I know, but I was actually leading into it.
Okay.
I was leading into it.
I must say.
Yeah.
So take us back to
you had something probably
January
set up.
8, 2018.
Yes.
We were just talking about, how you should think about situations, and you always seem to come at things from such a positive perspective. And I was perhaps struggling a little bit with what happened with Simon myself. This was only a few months later. We had an epic failure from a sales launch that we had done. Things were not looking ideal. We had lost some strategic partners at that time. And, there was just a lot of losses.
Yeah.
And I remember coming to you, and things felt a little bit helpless.
Yeah.
And you
at
had
CMOS, we're all in the whole team is in the same boat, right? Like everyone is. Yeah.
And I remember you having quoted this person I'd never heard of, Gary V. At the time, and you said you should check him out, and how he really looks to losses and how you can grow from them, and just certain perspectives, and training the mind really to be strong. And that's what got me on him.
Yeah. So I don't want to leave out. We've mentioned some names, but guys like Paul and Anthony Robbins and Jack Canfield along the way have really resonated with me, because I don't have that formal education, so I always chose to go through get a personal education.
Yeah, well, here's the thing.
Yeah,
you need personal education regardless of
100%, 100%.
So
right?
go get it
important.
and read some books.
Yeah,
there are people who have been through far worse situations than any of us have been in. And they just are so mentally strong.
And that's the other thing. If someone else has done anything in the same situation that you're in, then that means that you can do it. That's the proof. So just success leaves clues, right? And so you can follow what they did. Where Gary, at the time when I started to really consume his content, it just resonated with me differently.
Hey,
right?
whoever does and whatever helps,
and that's
to
it.
each their own. And you kind of put me onto him, and I
Yeah.
remember you saying, you know, this guy's doing some great things.
Yeah.
And I sort of dabbled in it and
Yeah.
was watching some of his videos. And
Yeah.
then you wanted to do a podcast,
Yeah.
and then you mentioned his name again, and like he does this podcast, and this is how he does it.
Yeah.
And then that's really the birth of the podcast. And
Yeah.
I remember when we started, you had mentioned to me, oh man, Laura, what if one day this becomes big enough that we could get Gary on the podcast? And I probably laughed at you. I was like the naysayer that we talk about. Like, damn those naysayers. Not laughed at you, but was kind of like, that would be so hard. Like, how would we ever get him?
Yeah.
Season 4 season premiere.
Yes.
Gary V
Gary
was
V.
on the REC Experience.
REC Experience. He was in the podcast. We were in his office. Myself, yourself, Simos, and Machado. We all went to New York, as mentioned, and went to his office. It was really cool. The guy has a 1,000-person organization. I think it's up to like 250, 300 million now. But put all that aside for a second, and he is the only guy that I've come across who gives all his tactics and
away.
his strategies away for free.
Do we have
on a daily basis?
The manual right beside you, sitting on. Where's that binder? Oh, maybe we don't.
One of the
maybe
boys
we don't.
maybe took it away. It's a great point, right?
Yeah.
There's a 2.0 version of his content model, but the first one that came out, download it. Just Google Gary V content model. That's all you got to do. You'll see probably 2 links. There's the first version and then the 2.0 version. Legit, I told him on the podcast, I would have paid you. I would have paid 10 grand, 15 grand for this. Yeah. Probably at this point, I would have paid more because we've gotten a lot more in return.
It has single-handedly changed the way we do things here at REC.
Yeah,
and like the testament to him is that it has been the reason that this ballooned faster. I'm not saying it's huge, but ballooned faster than I think we thought it would.
Yeah.
And so we actually had your idol, I'm sure you would say, and many people's idol on here. What a great guy.
Yeah.
Being in studio with him.
Yeah.
We mentioned it on the actual episode. The guy didn't even necessarily look at you. He made mention to look at each and every one of us in the studio. He was speaking to us, not just you.
Yeah.
What a stand-up guy.
Yeah, he's just a very, very stand-up guy. I think that's a question that I get a lot of. Like, hey, like, how was it?
Was he really like that
was
in
he
person?
really like that? And I'm like, I going into it, I expected nothing less because I've been consuming the content for so long.
Or he'd be such a farce.
Well, it'd just be so weird. Like, what the heck? Why? Like, and I walk in and we all walk in and he puts his phone down and he gave us everything he could give us within that time period.
And all his team members did too. I don't know if you remember, just us waiting outside when the videographers we were talking. I said, well, how do you guys organize all your content? Because it's tough for us to organize everything. There's so much.
Yeah.
He gave us ideas and how we implemented that. Like we just implement everything. And so I think the learning lesson really there is you get a lot more by giving.
And we almost we obviously made an impression on them as well because they used our episode that we recorded as an episode on his podcast, right? So that was really, really cool. We got the email like hours later, like, hey guys, we just went through it. If you guys are okay with it, and we're like, okay with it? Like, are you crazy? Go ahead and use it. Like, never would have thought that they would use our episode, that it would have been like to that level where they would have cared to use it, and they did, and we got tons of new engagement just for being on their podcast as well.
So Glenn Fox, I know there's a tie to Gary.
Yeah, look, that
well.
kind of came out of nowhere. Gary did a little talk at right after actually we left New York, like within a couple of days. He did a talk at USC, and Glenn Fox kind of came into my wheelhouse. He was he still is a professor there at USC, and just talks about gratitude in business, and he teaches courses on it. And I'm like, wow, this speaks my language. Like, I'm all about that. Like, I think everything starts with you being grateful. So if you go down the path of what you don't have, unfortunately, I think you're just going to get more of it because you're focusing on it. And so if you can just stop yourself whenever you're going down that downward spiral and say, hey, here's some things I can be grateful for. And you might need to start with what some would say silly things, like I'm grateful for breathing right now.
I'm grateful my feet touch the ground.
Like, get started and move the needle in the right direction, and Then when I started to go down the rabbit hole of Glenn Fox, to notice that there's scientific proof to back some of these things, I was like, okay, I gotta have you on. And he really came with the facts, right?
Yes, with all the goods for sure. Someone else who I think comes from the same mindset, Brody Kern.
Yeah.
Talk about gratitude.
Yeah, talk about
Getting you
gratitude
through tough times.
This guy, like, he almost OD'd like 6 times.
Yeah, in like a day.
In a day
he
or
said
something.
it.
Like, yeah, something. Yeah, it was pretty rough, you know.
Yeah.
I come from a pretty rough area, and so I've heard some crazy stories. This was near the top.
Yeah.
He's from the States. Go check him out on Instagram.
Wasn't sure if he'd make it to 30 or 35 or something like that.
Yeah. And just blowing up now as a business coach. But it's just nice to see, again, those stories, right, coming out.
Yeah, a lot. So we, when we have this many guests on, you start to realize like a lot of successful people, they have kind of the same mentality.
Yeah.
We're learning a lot of lessons across the board that everyone sort of shares with each other.
Yep.
Evan Carmichael.
Evan Carmichael, local boy in Toronto. One of the biggest YouTube stars in the world. But just neat, like his offices are right down the street from us right now. We don't actually really run in the same circles. He's definitely someone that we were so grateful to have on because he's busy. Like every minute of his is
So
is
busy,
tight.
you guys couldn't even wait a minute for me to get to the studio.
You got locked out of that one. But it goes to show, right? You sometimes miss opportunities if you're late. You went to go order popcorn or something. I don't know
Late,
what the
like
heck
it
you
was
were
by
doing.
choice.
I don't know what the heck you were up to. But anyway, Steven and I got in.
It was a
and,
drive-by. You jumped out of the car.
Clemmer was on vacation, Machado our boy, and then Steven and I went in and we see Laura. That was kind of cool. It was fun. I wish I caught that part on video. You at the door knocking.
You're like, I didn't
and no
knock.
one's letting you
I
in.
was like, I guess that's that. I guess I'll go have myself some popcorn.
But shout out to Evan Carmichael for doing it. I mean, a new book that just came out. Go check it out. Just Google Evan Carmichael. Wealth of knowledge from an entrepreneurship and leadership perspective.
So I'm going to bring it back to real estate.
Yeah.
For a bit here, Brittany, our girl Britt,
Investor
Girl Britt.
Investor Girl Britt on Instagram.
I love women like this.
Yeah, she's I think right now as we speak of this recording and like mid-December, she's probably living in what she turned us from a school bus into like a camper place. Her and her boyfriend.
Yeah.
And I apologize if they got engaged or something and I might have missed it. But just like crazy work ethic, really is very motivated in what she wants to do and knows that
she's
I
so
gotta
passionate
live.
and she showcases everything. Like you can literally watch her turn. I mean, she could have built this. This studio would have been a joke for her, and this was like impossible for me.
Yeah, this
and I love it. She's got the sledgehammer out. She's ripping stuff out of the wall.
Everything. Go check. All I can say is go see her on Instagram. You'll see everything that Laura is talking about.
Yeah. So let's go. We had another great couple, Mel and Dave.
Mel and Dave from North Bay, Ontario, drove in. They're just blowing up on social right now, and so kudos to you guys. They shared a lot of their strategies and tips on investing in real estate.
We had some developers that we had
Aren't
again.
you kind of amazed how good I am? And I remember almost every single episode and everything we're talking. Like it just flies off.
Really?
It's pretty good. Like
you're self-complimenting.
I'm self-complimenting right now because I'm just actually pretty amazed
that
like,
I have
wow,
to deal with
you know what?
single
It's been
day.
a year.
Yes,
it's
Jazz.
been a lot of episodes.
Yes, Jazz.
Yeah, no, I don't need that. I'm just like, that's pretty good. Like
Jazz.
I remember all of them. Go. And I'll fumble this next one. Go.
No, I don't even know what to pick. I'm not going to try and
try it.
No,
No.
that doesn't happen.
Hey, you know what? Something that did happen that we didn't speak about as I just looked over your head. We got like a new setup here, like this new wall.
Yes.
Local graffiti artists and just artists in general. Blazeworks came
Blaze.
down, and I was away for a few days. Oh no, I was actually away for a week and a half. I was in Barcelona with my family, and you guys executed.
It's amazing. You leave and we get stuff done.
Well, last time I left,
we get a lot more done.
Alto,
when we
you
leave.
got the shelves done. This time I left, I'm gonna say that Steven got this all done for us with Blazeworks, obviously, and I think this is one of our best work yet. because it's like we get so many compliments on it.
It's really what we do here.
Yeah,
we
look,
can
we
reference
had to,
in a lot of ways.
Yeah, we needed to pay homage to our boys. Congratulations. Huge shout out to the Toronto Raptors. The first time that the Larry O'Brien Trophy has come north. I mean, we started the sport, and so I'm sure
Yes,
Mr. Naismith is happy that the trophy made
It's
it back.
home.
It's home. It's still here as of this recording.
We'll see how this year goes.
Playing really well.
Yeah.
And obviously we talk about leadership, real estate. If you're just joining us, and this is the first episode you've ever heard, the podcast is all things real estate, entrepreneurship, and leadership. You see, removing friction on this wall. It's really our reminder of getting people, hopefully, and assisting people in removing whatever friction you have in your life to get what you want. And so that's kind of our reminder, and that's why we have that on the wall as well. And REC Experience is the name of our show and our podcast, which we come out every Wednesday. But we got some exciting news as well coming out for 2020, which we'll share a little later.
Oh.
Right?
Little
Might
secret.
as well. Little secret. Why not?
Okay, so Mr. Zev Mandelbaum and Miss Kara Hirsch.
Zev is just a character. Kara, just an amazing
Kara's
soul.
a great friend of ours.
Yeah,
We've been working with her for a while.
She's just an amazing person. She's been so supportive of REC, always making sure that she's keeping us in the loop of new opportunities for us to offer to our clients at first access. You guys have heard tons of times when to buy when it comes to pre-construction.
And this you heard it from the developer's mouth.
Yeah, you heard it from...
He told you the straight goods.
Kara makes it happen and helps us in that, and among others as well. But she's definitely a huge part. But Zev, I mean, he comes from one of the biggest families in real estate, in the real estate world, and so he gave the straight goods. Like, it's nothing other
and in the
than
most
that.
entertaining way. So be sure to go back on that one.
He's a fun guy.
Great, bro. We had 2 different episodes with our boys at
Look,
Greybrook.
we had both CEOs. So CEO of the real estate division, Peter Papailias, CEO of the capital division, Sasha Chuchus. Both of them just amazing guys.
Yeah.
We say it all the time. I've said probably amazing a million times because a lot of our guests have given so much to REC that it's such a nice feeling to hopefully give back now, in maybe bringing them more viewers and just bringing more awareness to whatever they do. But not that Peter and Sasha and Greybrook need it, because these guys are just the best in the world when it comes to what they do. Google them. Get in touch with us if you want at info@reccanada.com. We'll put you in touch with their firm. But the wealth of knowledge. That's all I can say when it comes to those guys.
Definitely. All right. I'm going to name off a few people now.
Yeah.
Quickly again.
Yeah.
We had our boy, Justin Conoco.
Yeah.
Kyle Hampson.
Yeah.
Jeff Martin from Motivating from the Sixth. That was a neat one for sure.
Yeah.
Well, you actually got to be on a number of podcasts.
Well, yeah,
we
look,
didn't even reference that. Not even people coming on here.
Yeah.
That was you on his podcast.
Yeah, so I set out a goal, like just to myself, that at the start of this year, I wanted to be featured on 25 podcasts. I ended up being on like 26, 27, which was just neat, right? Because I wanted to be on podcasts. It's not only, it's nice for me to do this, but I also wanted my awareness to get bigger and my reach to get bigger. So huge shout out to...
You definitely learn a lot when you go out and are on other podcasts.
Yeah, for sure. And so huge shout out to everyone who had me as a guest on their podcast as well.
What about your girl?
Well,
you're not going to give me a little praise?
I
have to praise you all day. I don't get nothing in return here.
Two things about you podcasting in Alto. Talk to us about your experience on being featured on a podcast.
I took your advice. I tried to take his advice.
Which was what?
Without giving him the credit for it.
Okay, which was what?
Which was go onto Instagram.
Yeah.
Find some local people who are doing podcasts.
Yeah.
And then message them. And they will probably not message you back. And then message them again. But before you do so, try and provide them some value.
Yeah.
So definitely I found this one podcast group two girls. I thought they were really interesting, and I listened to their podcast. I would provide feedback in their comments section. And then one day I just came out with yes, and I got lucky. They said yes right away.
Right.
So I definitely know that doesn't happen because I haven't been as lucky as since then. But after 30 podcasts, essentially they want to talk to men and women, but it's predominantly women and what we go through in our 30s. I specifically on that episode am talking about me personally investing in real estate myself this year, which was definitely something major. And then just, about a woman creating her own business or running her own show and having her own money. So check it out.
So the story of you purchasing your first investment property. So congrats on that.
Thank you.
So happy that you made the jump.
I finally did it. Yeah.
We had to obviously talk about that at length, because that was huge.
Oh, that was the purchase the gift that kept on giving.
Yeah,
we had so much content around it. I wrote a blog about it.
Yeah.
Then REC featured a blog about it. We had our own podcast about it. I was on a podcast about it.
Right.
So I think
and you actually invested and made money. Let's not forget about that.
Which was really the only point of it all.
Right.
We've been talking about this for such a long time.
Yeah.
I definitely knew I needed to take the plunge, pull the trigger, take the leap of faith, whatever you want to call it.
Was it as scary as that you made it up in your head before you did it?
No, but I don't think anything really is. That's just the rule, right?
Right.
In the world, nothing is as bad as it seems.
Right.
Writing those checks was a little bit scary.
Right.
For sure.
But you also budgeted for it.
Yeah. Saved accordingly, and now I have to continue to save accordingly. So I just put money away, and I don't even think about it. It goes immediately from when I get a paycheck right into the savings account.
And you made mention to both myself and Simos that you're ready to go again.
Oh, I'm excited for this year.
Right.
Every year I want to do something. Yeah.
That's gonna
and
come
everyone
up.
always says it's like a drug. At least this is a drug that we can all kind of live with.
Exactly. Right.
Not to put yourself in a bad situation.
Yes. But we're talking about a calculated risk.
Yes.
Not to say that it's all rosy. There's things that you always need to consider with any type of investment, and I'm talking specifically here real estate, where in each type of investment option, pre-construction, resale, multiplex, commercial, land development, mortgage investments, whatever it is, there's always things to consider. And please don't get caught up in the hype of all the benefits and all the pros. Make sure you're asking the right questions. And if you don't know which questions to ask, at least reach out to somebody.
Who would know those answers.
We would love if it's us, because we'll just give you the questions to ask. No strings attached. We don't want anything, but we're more than happy to give you the list of questions to ask to kind of work through the due diligence of a property.
So then you actually speak in length about this with Jaspreet Singh.
Yeah. Look, this guy is all over YouTube, based out of Detroit. Minority Mindset is the page that you want to search on YouTube, and just search them. Find them and consume as much content that you
go
possibly
deep into
can.
that.
Especially
you'll
if you're in that, and not to say that it's only focused in the millennial kind of age group, but get there because you'll get a lot of valuable content.
So I didn't talk about Habitat for Humanity yet, but the second thing that was such a feel-good moment this year.
Yeah, we got to build a home, help build a home.
Jazz didn't help do anything.
Well, there's video that our team put together that will show you that I was actually hammering stuff.
They had to
I will
undo
give
the
it to the
work
ladies
you did.
on our team,
You took
including you,
Rosalie,
Katie, who
Rasha.
who actually outdid
Jennifer
the man.
Popo.
Oh, Popo for sure. Alla. Yeah, they literally
you have a bunch
outdid
of
the
women
men.
surrounding you who have maybe something to prove. Or
I don't know what it was when you guys got a hammer
I don't
in
know
your
what
hand.
it was,
You guys went crazy.
The guys were tapping so slowly. Just going nuts.
You guys were pissed off at someone. I'm not sure who. But kudos to the whole team at Habitat for Humanity. What you guys do daily, we got to be part of it for 8-9 hours. And then we sat down with John Gerard, the CEO of Habitat for Humanity. Just an amazing guy. Again, just so much energy, runs a huge organization, and we just spoke about leading a huge organization Mission, all things Habitat for Humanity. And so just had a blast at their headquarters as well.
So in terms of sort of finalizing what we did on the podcast side,
Yeah.
REC, we took our podcast on the road this year.
Yeah, a few times.
A few times.
We did,
Yes.
and on top of that, so I think are you talking about Montreal, for example?
Yes, I am.
Yeah, so Montreal was a blast. Did another tour there.
Yeah. Went to London.
And
We
then
did one at Donalda here, which isn't really like touring, but it was not in the studio.
But what was cool about it is that there was actually live audience.
Yeah.
Like never, ever
Yes.
did like that even remotely come into my mind. I'm not sure about yours. Like I didn't even think about a live audience for a podcast because we
You just
started off
think
in a
of it-
boardroom.
Yeah, with a mic and no camera.
Right,
So
a
what
$75
would there be
mark.
to watch?
No support team, no nothing. Excuse me. And then we came in here and we started building this studio. I was like, okay, this is it. And our audience is virtual, and that's
Yeah.
cool. And it's a little tough sometimes because you don't actually get the feedback until somebody leaves a comment or DMs you and sends us an email or a text. But to sit in front of 200, 300 people and do a live podcast episode, it was something that I just never dreamt of. It was one of the coolest experiences I ever had.
So neat. People love seeing what goes behind the scenes because it can be done easily, but
Yeah.
we've sort of made it more complicated now as
Yeah.
we get more experience. And so people just love to be a fly on the wall and watch
Yeah.
everything that goes into it.
Yeah, probably one of my most memorable experiences of 2019 has been our live audience
And
podcast because it came out of nowhere.
I get the feeling REC is going to be touring a little more.
I have
in
a feeling
2020.
too. Let's just wait and see what
We'll
happens.
Wait and see, people.
We'll wait and see what happens there.
So that kind of concludes the podcast side of things.
Well, we always have our boy, Mr. Phil Soper, close off.
Oh, my gosh.
Close off. You can never forget about Phil.
it just
but-
happened so recently, I
Yes,
forget.
right. He always closes off our seasons,
Yes.
especially at the year end because we like to talk about the stats. So we sat down with Phil.
Well, and
that
he
was-
just talked about his trip that he just went on, which was incredible.
Well, he's been going on a couple
Everything
of
that
trips.
they're doing
so
for Royal LePage.
Yeah, the guy's CEO of Canada's largest real estate organization, Royal LePage, 18,000 strong, and just I'm sure you've heard and seen him on past episodes we've had him on. He's obviously a returning guest, number 3 now.
Yeah.
He was just a blast to have on. And that's done on the podcast side. You're right. I mean, on the real
Did
estate
we forget
side.
anything?
From a podcast perspective, look,
No, what
here's
else we need to talk about? I have all day. I'll just pour myself number
Yeah.
3, number
Well,
4. Who knows?
We have more work to do still. We all do. On the real estate side, we've number 1 in Royal LePage Signatures organization.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's safe to say we'll place number 2 in the whole country.
Which we'll be finding out very shortly.
We'll be finding out very shortly, but I think it's safe to say, kind of, because I know our numbers, I know where number 1 is, so we're still on the chase for number 1. I actually love this part right now more than anything else because the fact that we are chasing and we're in the process, I'm more excited about being in the process than actually when you get to the top, because then it's like, it's done. And so I'm having a lot of fun. I know the team is as well. I'm watching the team kind of get to that number 1. So we're probably, we're at 700 transactions at the end of 2019. I think the magic number is going to be about 825. So 2020 is going to be.
We can use this now next year to see how we did. But kudos to our team. We have an amazing team of realtors. They work so hard and tirelessly, and just the service that they're providing their clients. We always try to provide what we call world-class service, and we always have new ideas on how we can improve that.
Yeah.
But of course, obviously, to our clients, we always ask them for their feedback and implement as many things as we can.
Anything else you want to cover? What do you got?
Trying to think.
What do you got for the holidays coming up?
The holidays.
Yeah.
I'm going to be skiing a little bit.
Nice.
Oh, I'm going out to see my sister-in-law.
Right. And where's this?
Well, this isn't, and the reason I'm whispering is because she doesn't know about it.
Okay.
But by the time this airs,
You'll be there,
she
I guess.
already knew about it. So I'm not ruining the surprise.
Okay, good.
She and I happen to have the same birthday.
Oh, cool.
And so it's a big one for her, 40.
Yeah.
So her brother, my husband, and I
Yeah.
are going out to surprise her.
Nice.
And we're going to be going to Lake Louise, doing some skiing and stuff like
Awesome.
that. Yeah.
So that's kind of the whole Is that like the whole? Then you go up north though.
Yeah, then I go up north and I do my.
Is that the Christmas there? And
Yeah,
stuff like
so
that?
I grew up skiing, and I have some friends that I've known since I was like 4 years old, and we all get together. We just have a blast over that sort of week or whatever it is.
So, like, I'm not that big into New Year's resolutions and stuff like that. I know you're not that huge on that. Shout out to the new blog that you started.
Yeah,
okay. Where can people find that?
People can, so medium.com.
Okay.
So Laura's Playlist is what it's called.
Yep.
I've been doing monthly. It was tough. I was ambitious with my goal.
That's okay.
But we've sort of changed it to monthly, where I'm talking about all different types of things that have worked well in my life. Goal setting, not resolutions, was my most recent one.
Nice.
I talk about fashion. I talk about my dog.
It's awesome.
Pretty much my life in a playlist form. Yeah.
Love what you're doing with the fashion post. Just like that, you're kind of documenting some of your passions. It's just cool. So anybody who's watching, who's in a small business or wanting to start like a personal brand, and I know personal brand might have a
Sounds bigger than it is, perhaps.
Yeah, it's just like what you want your online reputation to be. Like, just get started, right?
Just do something and put it out there. And also note that, like, I don't have a team doing any of this for me. So we talk about this all the time. People use tons of excuses. One of them being, well, you guys have a team. You have a media squad, so it's easy to do. Please, please, please keep in mind that when we started the podcast, we had nobody.
Yeah.
We knew nothing. Now, obviously, the quality's gone a lot better.
Yeah.
But when I do my fashion posts, I just take a picture.
It's the best.
And I post it.
Yep.
And I write a caption. And it takes 2 minutes. No one helps me do it. So consider, just start there. Just start there. Something that you're passionate about, whether it's cooking or your pets, your kids, whatever
Anything.
it is.
Just start talking. The reason I mentioned about not really caring too much about resolutions and stuff like that.
Yeah.
What's the one thing that you'd want to take from 2019 that you learned and like go all in and quadruple down in 2020? And that again, as always, we generally ask.
You know,
our
it wouldn't
guests,
be.
Laura.
It would be helpful if you gave me these questions ahead of time.
But then that's not authentic. It's not fun, and it's like scripted. We don't script anything here. And
I like to give this good
We're not going to
thought.
start now.
Okay.
How about as you think? I'll kind of pose
I'm
it
sure
to
you have
myself.
a great answer because you've been thinking about it for days, probably.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. To come up with a great answer.
It really is probably the one tip that I've been giving throughout the content that I'm producing on a daily basis, and that is stop judging yourself. Be okay with who you are. Stop judging yourself because there's so many people who are already doing that for you that you need to like get really quiet and insular with what you're good at and then go all in on that. Stop worrying about what you're not good about, and what people are gonna think about you, and just go. Because if there's anything I've learned in the last 18 months, is when you are actually having fun, then everything else takes care of itself, and people start coming into your world that you never imagined would, and they just want to help. Like,
I got to
people just want to
admit,
help.
most of the time this year, we've had a few moments, I'm sure, in high stress days at times.
Yeah.
But we rarely work here at REC.
Yeah, I agree.
We spend our days doing stuff that we really enjoy.
Yeah.
To add on to what you said,
Yes.
I put myself out there in the social media world more this year than I had in the past. Definitely what had kept me from doing so was the worry about what people thought, and I had mentioned it earlier today, that the people who are judging you, you don't want to work with anyway, or you don't want to surround yourself with anyway. And then the rest of everybody else, they're going to come to you because they also love what you love.
So true.
That's what's amazing. Like,
So
just by
true.
me, the amount of people who speak to me on a daily basis now, just at the office or when I'm walking around or through my phone, is, oh, I saw your blog and I love your fashion things. That you inspired me to do this more. Most of the feedback is really good. It's just one or two, and you have to kind of just say that's not worth you not doing it.
No. Look, if someone leaves you a comment online, they watched your content and then leave a comment online.
Yeah. At least you're
I feel
doing
bad
it.
for no, I feel bad for them.
Yeah.
Like something's probably broken in their world to consume your content and then leave a negative comment. Like really, but
in
that's their
terms of
thing,
getting
and-
started, I'd say if you're going to start 2020 with anything, is consume positive content.
Yeah.
as
Garbage
much
in,
as you can.
garbage out.
Garbage in, garbage out.
Garbage
so
in, garbage out,
this
right?
year, I read, I think, 14 books, many of them
Wow,
self-help.
good job.
I think two that were just for fun. Most self-help books.
Good job.
It helps in the morning when you're reading something that's positive. No one likes getting up in the morning. I don't like getting up in the morning.
Yeah.
But I get up some days very, very early, 4:30, and I read something positive, and it just sticks with you all day.
Yep.
You know, so if you're not sure where to start, I would say start there. Whether it's Gary Vee, whether it's Jack
Whatever.
Canfield, Tony Robbins, whatever's positive to you. Doesn't even have to be that. It could be podcasts.
Yeah.
Whatever it is.
Yeah. I want to release our kind of exciting news for 2020.
Please do.
So starting in 2020, we are going to be releasing on the audio platform. So that's iTunes, Spotify, SoundCloud, Google Play, on any podcast platform that's on your phone. Make sure, please, right now, if you're listening, as long as you're not driving, just pull over, and click the notification button, because starting January 1st, 2020, we will be coming out with anywhere from a 5 to 8 minute to sometimes 10 to 12 minute episode every single day.
You heard that,
single
people.
day.
Every single day.
Like when I talked about going all in and quadrupling down, it was something that I hoped for when we started, but now we're doing it.
Yeah.
We're ready to
Well,
rock.
you know what? When we talked about executing on things,
Yeah.
we didn't make it too hard at first.
Yeah.
You can always grow on your successes. So we started off once a week.
Yeah.
We did that consistently.
Yeah.
And now we have the right team in place. And so we're
and so
going to do it every day.
perfect. Yeah, and we're going to do so. Just to kind of clarify, the REC Experience show, like the actual show, is going to still be every Wednesday. Nothing's changing from that perspective. We'll still have guests, and sometimes it'll just be myself and Elto, or Simos and just myself. Like the show will still stay every single Wednesday, but now you can also hear a certain clip that was taken from maybe an episode
Or a rant.
or from a show,
Or
like
something,
or a
yeah.
rant every single day. So please, if you're listening right now, just take a second, make sure that your notifications are on whatever platform that you're listening on, because you're not going to want to miss things that we're coming out with, because as Laura mentioned, it's that and it will be out already by like 4 o'clock, 3:30 in the morning. So if you're like Elto and you wake up very early, you'll press play and you'll get that positive information, something that will stick with you throughout the day.
Yeah.
Most of it will be like leadership tactics or entrepreneurship strategies or real estate investment tips. And then just leave us some feedback. Let us know if we're on the right track. But again, the show will always and still continue with season 5. And when are we starting season 5?
Season 5 is going to be coming out January 8th.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Elto, and to all the listeners, Merry Christmas. Happy holidays, happy Festivus to the rest of us. Have a safe
New Year.
Happy New Year. Have a safe and happy holiday yourself, Elto.
Yes.
Thank you so much for
You bet,
everything you
Jazz.
do. Okay.
What
and
a great
salute
year.
Another couple of seasons and another great year. Happy New Year. Happy holidays. Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys.
Woo. I was
That's
getting
champagne. Yeah, me too.
Honey, we're going out tonight. And bring along your boxing gloves in case some fool gon' pick a fight. Oh, the way you're looking, honey, I'm pretty sure you'll knock 'em dead.